sharpening session, and we can pass these around. You can look at them. What I've done is number them, and you can follow through on the whole procedure and how it all evolves. I started out, I just took a bunch of the bandsaw blade stock that I was advocating. If you can get it, it's good material. I heat treated and then annealed a bunch of pieces. They're all pre-drilled. So I'll start passing these around. This first one here, I've numbered all these and we'll just pass them around in consecutive order. The first one, it's been heat treated, pre-drilled, the teeth have been removed from the blade, and the first step was to take, the blades are different shapes, but they're all in the same stage of preparation, so they go sequentially. The second one here is I'll take a fine line felt tip pen, draw the blade shape I want on it, and that's usually determined. You're going to get some warpage in the blades. That's why these blades are different shapes and different lengths. I take the usable part of it and draw some whatever shape blade I want in it. If I end up with a good piece after heat treating it, I might end up with a longer blade. So that accounts for the variance in the shapes. So then I'll draw it on there, and then what I do, and this is not the only way to go through this sharpening and shaping process, it's just the way I do it. Works for me. If you have a different method and it works for you, pursue it. So I'll draw the shape of the blade on there, and then I'll take a little cutoff wheel and a little electric handpiece, and I usually just remove the excess stock. Be careful, some of these are sharp edges on. Is try and keep the edge perpendicular to the blade. In other words, you want a 90-degree corner, 90 degrees on the faces here. The reason being, when you go to put your cutting edge on it, it makes it a lot easier if you're square to the sides of the blade. So this one here is just cleaning up the shape on it.
What do you think is a better type blade, a V-blade or a hollow ground?
That's a good point. If you like a hollow ground blade and it works for you, I'm not going to convince you otherwise. My thoughts are, I like a flat cutting edge on it. The reason being, and again, it's only my opinion, if you like a hollow ground blade, go for it.
You got a hollow ground blade in there, easier to resharpen. Next time you have to sharpen them.
Okay, my thoughts on it and my experience are they tend to dig in on you.
You can't turn them.
And exactly. If you get to a tight corner, it's hard to turn and cut a nice form in there, a nice radial shape. They will tend to dig in on you. If you like using them, I personally don't. My preference is just a flat cutting edge, like that. This is what I like to use. You can see. Okay, so then after I've cleaned up the profile of the blade, then I'll take it on the bench grinder and I'll grind the cutting edge on it, and do your darndest, and try and use a steady hand. Keep it central, keep the edges central to the blade. You want the cutting surface to be equidistant to the long axis of the blade. And on the tag here, I made a little notation. You don't want to grind an off-center cutting edge. In other words, you don't want something that looks like that. You want to try and keep it centered to the axis of the blade. I like to do it on the side of the wheel, and you've all seen this before. I use this little make so much more versatile. If you can afford it, buy a bigger one. Get an 8-inch versus a 6-inch. It's a little more spendy, but it's well worth it in my estimation. So then I went and on this one here, I guess it was the prior one, yeah. I ground the cutting edge on there, on the grinder. Then this one is where I started honing it. And what I like to use is just a combination, and my preference is a Norton India stone. Some of the stuff that you get like at Menards and them, Home Depot, they got some stones, they're just crap. They aren't worth the money you pay for them, they're too soft. This is a good Norton India stone. It's what they call a combination stone. It's got a coarse side and a fine side. They're a little spendier than what you'll pay at Menards or some of the other Home Depot or some of the other places around. They're well worth the money.
Usually if you go to the Rockler or the woodworker store, you're going to get good stuff there.
Do they have good stones? Yeah.
Yes.
These, I've had this thing. You use India stone? Yeah.
And it's orange on one side and
Right.
Yeah, this thing here,
I got one.
it's a couple of decades old.
I got a nice one down there.
We'll go over how to dress them and true them up.
I got a good Norton stone from John down
Do you?
at the Carver store too. He's got some good stuff.
Does he have them?
Yeah.
Okay, so the one that's going around there now that you got, which is number 5, it's been ground. The blade has been shaped. It's been, the cutting edge has been ground on it, and then it's been honed. And you can, what I like to do is after I go on the bench stone, then I'll use either a hard Arkansas or hardly anybody here, I don't presume, will be able to get a hold of any of this. But I've got some ceramic plates that I use. They're every bit the equal. I got these from a company I used to work at, and they used them somehow in the manufacturing process. But it's ceramic, and it's just ivory smooth, and it's every bit the equal of using a hard Arkansas. And if you ever get a hold of any ceramic, another thing you can use, I guess as long as I'm on that, is if any of your wives do any baking and they have any, Pampered Chef calls them I think a baking stone. They're a big stone like that. Lucky you if she drops it on the floor and breaks it. Because save the pieces. They make an excellent finishing stone. They're not quite as good as ceramic. They're not quite as fine. They're very good. But it's not quite as fine as ceramic or a hard Arkansas. But save the pieces. They make an excellent stone, and they're very, very durable. In fact, this stuff is nothing more than ceramic. It's some kind of fired clay. This is virtually ceramic.
you don't even have to break the pot. You just turn it upside down and use it.
Now, this side is really coarse here, but this will do an excellent job of putting a final honing job on your knife. While I'm on that, for any of you guys that are doing tile jobs at home, you can fight over these, and I'm not going to referee it. But if you're doing any tile work at home, it's plain old ceramic tile that you lay on your floor. If you get any that's not too coarsely textured, these are pretty fine. It'll give you a somewhat coarse sharpening job, but like for a hacker and whacker, like my pocket knife is here, you can look at the edge on there. It's somewhat coarse, but it puts a nice sharp edge on it. And you don't have to buy them, they're scraps. So I'll leave these here. You people can help yourself.
Bob, I was going to ask you a question. Do you use any mineral oil or anything when you're first starting out the one on your stone?
Okay, on the bench stone, I use mineral oil, yes, absolutely.
So that's the only place you use it. You don't use it on the ceramics or anything?
If you're using any kind of ceramics, if you want to lubricate it, I normally don't use water. Which is, they use it on the Japanese water stones, which are quite similar to ceramics. Yeah, you don't want to put oil on if you're using any kind of ceramic.
You got that water smell, works good on ceramic.
Does it?
Cleans up.
See, I use it dry. I have good results with it. I've tried oil and I've tried water on ceramics, and I don't see that it makes a hoot of bit of difference. So I just use it dry.
But you would even use like that soft scrub on those to clean them then?
Yeah.
Yeah, on these here you can use soft scrub, yeah, and even on this baking
that
stone here. Yeah, this guy here, this blade is not locked in and it's sharp, so be careful. And what I'll do is I'll finish hone them on a ceramic plate here, and then I will strop them on a leather strop. And for anybody, is there anybody here who doesn't have a leather strop? Everybody's got them.
I've got a kinky leather outfit.
Huh?
Yeah. Oh, Jesus.
You what?
Kinky leather outfit.
Okay.
As long as it ain't a thong. Things that make you want to go,
All right, there's different products available for dressing it. What I use is just a block of buffing compound. And I know I bought this one at Sears years and years ago. It was longer, but it comes in different grades. I think white is the finest grade. You know, you just put it on and strap your knife with it. Really all it does is it polishes up the edge. It helps you take that little fine wire edge off if there's any left after you use a fine stone after honing it. The reason I asked if anybody didn't have a strop, paper. It's a lot cheaper than buying leather, and what works really good is just buy yourself a pad of watercolor paper. Put it on a flat surface just like this, tape it on there, and you could work a knife on it. It lasts you for forever, and it's every bit the equal of a piece of leather. There's nothing, people talk leather, you know, there's nothing magic in my opinion about it, because really what's doing the cutting, it's just a medium to hold the compound, and that's really what's polishing your knife. So you can do the same darn thing.
Just the back side of a Cheerio box works really good.
Does it? Have you
Yep.
done that? Yeah. I like to use, the reason I like the watercolor paper is it has a slight texture to it, so it holds the compound nice. And if you see after a lot of use it gets loaded up, just take a flat blade edge. You see that stuff coming off of there. You can just scrape it and clean it. You get a lot of miles out of a piece of paper, I'll tell you. So if anybody was contemplating, you see all that stuff coming off, buying a piece of leather for stropping, try the paper. You might fall in love with it and save yourself a few bucks.
I just cut it in little strips and take that rouge and do that real fast and sharpen my knife, and then I throw it away. And next time I sharpen my knife, I take a new sheet.
Well, here.
That way your rouge is always real sharp.
Yeah, well, I dress it, you know, I'll clean it off. I made a point a couple of years ago to try and do a long-term scientific study on the paper thing here versus the leather. So what I did, this is one of my own personal knives, I made it a point, I don't put this on anything but the paper. And you can pass that around. That's as sharp as any knife you get anywhere, I guess. And it works great for me. And the paper has done an admirable job on it. That's all I ever used on it was the paper for stropping it.
This is that power bandsaw blade, right?
That's a regular commercial bandsaw
Yeah,
blade.
right.
Yeah, 3/4 inch.
Right.
Yeah. The ones I told you to go dumpster diving for. But have any of you guys gone to any metalworking shops and asked them about their blades? Yeah, because they just throw them away and they're freebies. Okay, here's the final blade. There's different ways of polishing them. It's not even necessary to polish the back of the blade. You can do it, I do it. What works good is just get wet or dry sandpaper and just rub it over it. You can get a nice polish on it. You're not cutting with the back of the blade, so really it's almost immaterial whether you want to do it or not. So that blade has been finished. It's gone through the whole process. There are alternatives. I have one. Anybody here use a paper wheels mounted on a bench grinder?
I've got some.
They're good. They're not a necessity. They'll give you a quickie sharpening job. My personal preference is I still like working on a good flat bench stone. And if you're going to go out and buy a stone, I would recommend buy the 8-incher. It gives you more stroking distance on it, and it costs you a few bucks more, but it's well worth it. This is the same type of stone as the other one, but it's just an 8-incher. They can get a little spendy. I don't know what they might cost.
I don't remember what I paid for mine. I've had it a while.
What about,
I wouldn't be surprised if the price on them must be pushing $30 or something. Would you think?
You see a lot
At
of those
least.
on eBay.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Okay. Over time, it always gives me heart palpitations when I see somebody take a stone and they take a knife and they're doing this. It's like, oh, what are you doing, you know? Over time, you're just going to destroy your stone. Use the stone full length and rotate it frequently. So, you know, you keep the wear even on it. And people ask, well, what kind of angle do you sharpen it at? I don't know what the angle is. I'll give you a guesstimate. It's probably about 10 or 15, between 10 and 15 degrees off the horizontal. And if you look at somebody's knife, and I won't mention any names because I looked at one here this evening, but if you look at their knife and you look back on the blade and you see all kinds of score marks and scratch marks that have obviously been done on a bench stone, they're missing the biggest thing in sharpening, which is consistency. You know, try and be real consistent all the time. Otherwise, you're going to you always end up with facets. Facets don't cut so good. You want to try and maintain a nice, clean, flat surface on the cutting edge. This knife here is about 15 years old, an anniversary deal where I worked one time, like 15-year anniversary or something, but so they offered to buy me something, so I said, oh, buy that Gerber knife. It was like $40-some. No way is it worth it. It's like just a lousy piece of steel in the blade. But try and keep, however you do sharpen it, you know, no specific angle, but be consistent in it. Otherwise you end up with, like I say, you end up with facets in it, and you don't want that. It's not so bad on just a hacker and whacker pocket knife like that. It's just a general utility knife. But on your good carving knives, you want a nice, clean cutting edge and the surface. You don't want it all chopped up.
Bob, how about with fillet knives? You know, when we're up north fishing, and we don't sandblasting, those ceramics, you know, stones, with a little hole, and after the hole gets big, then they throw them away, or you can actually use those for sharpening stones, because they got a lot of aluminum oxide mixed right in it.
I think it's more than a 15-degree angle too, I think.
Well,
I think it's about a 20.
What about diamond plates?
when I lay my knife down, I'm quite flat. I'm like that.
Yeah, but I mean those scratch sticks.
Oh, yeah, okay, I see what you're saying, yeah. And I tried real accurately with a protractor to measure the angle, you know, cutting. If you're cutting in something like Tupelo, basswood, you know, some of your softer woods, I like a thin blade, relatively flat angle on it. If you're cutting harder wood, you can have a wider angle in there.
It's a use a different blade for basswood and Tupelo.
Do you?
That's what they claim, yeah.
Well, I don't know. I carve a lot of basswood and a lot of Tupelo, and I use the same knives. If there's any difference in it, somebody's more astute than I am. I don't see it as any big deal. Okay, over time, your bench stone's going to get worn, even though you rotate it frequently and everything, and you work the full length of it. One way you can clean them up real nice, it dresses them down. The same machine shops where you're scavenging your blade stock by going into dumpsters for their cast-off bandsaw blades. When their grinding wheels get wore down, they pitch them. You can even go in a lot of shops and ask them, you know, got any used up grinding wheels, surface grinding wheels, and they'll give them to you because they just throw them anyway. Don't use the fine grit. If you get something like 32 to 40 something, the grit size, and they'll have a label on them. And all you do is get yourself a piece of steel plate, something, if you go to a junkyard or wherever, something a half-inch to whatever, and you just take these grinding wheels. If it's a full one, smack it with a hammer. You can break it right in half. Take your steel plate and just, I need a trash can. Well, I won't do it. Make a mess all over. Just abrade these and it'll fall apart. No, I think I'll show you. Here, we'll do it this way. Pass that around if anybody wants to look at it. Do it over your steel plate and use a liberal application of mineral oil, and then take your stone and just go all around just keep going over and over and over. It'll dress down the surface. You can keep a nice, clean, flat surface. Sometimes if you haven't been using enough lubricant on your stone and cleaning it frequently, you'll find you'll get a lot of steel embedded in it. So then it's time to, if you can look at it, you can see shiny flecks of steel embedded in your stone. Good thing to do is to dress it down and clean it like that. So you just abrade the grinding wheel, put a lot of mineral oil on it, and you can dress this nice and flat. You can clean it up, it'll look just like brand new for you.
Boy, I don't look that flat. I got big grooves in mine.
Shame on you. Yeah, if you get a good stone and you take care of it, that thing will last you years and years and years. But
Well, it'll last years and years with a groove in there too.
yeah, I'm kind of a stickler for maintaining my stuff, so I like it a nice flat stone. Any questions? Comments, criticisms?
What do you think of diamond embedded into like nickel plate and stuff? What do you think of that?
Okay, yeah, I noticed looking through Wood Carver's catalog, it sells diamond paste. Yeah, diamond will sharpen your knives, I don't doubt that in the least. I've worked a lot with diamond paste when I was a mold maker. Use it for putting mirror finishes in plastic injection molds. Some of you guys may be familiar with that. You use what it is, it's just crushed industrial diamond, and it's in a matrix solution, and it comes in different grades. But I don't know what they're selling over at Wood Carvers, but I know the diamond paste comes in different grades, and the difference in it is, I don't remember how they measure it, but how much diamond you have in a certain volume. And I suspect he's probably selling an El Cheapo grade with a lot of filler and binder, very little diamond in it. Because if you buy the good quality stuff that's real rich in diamond, it gets kind of spendy. I don't remember what it used to cost, but it comes in a little, like a hypodermic syringe, and you can squeeze it out. It's like $20-some or $30-some a tube or something like that. They would have to convince me it's worth the money, you know, and it does a much better job than just using buffing compound. I'm not convinced, but if you want to do it, go ahead.
Bob, on your flat stone, if you're using mineral oil, do you have to get that out of that stone?
No, I use that as a lubricant, and in fact, if you got stones that you're not using them for a long time, saturate it with oil. And what I do is I got a couple of them at home. I just keep a coffee can with a lid on it, you know, and you don't have to fill it up. If you've got half-inch of oil in the bottom, it'll wick right up through the stone. Do keep them saturated with oil. I don't know why, but if you let them dry out, something with the crystalline structure of the stone, it's like they get more brittle, they may tend to flake off. You want to keep them well lubricated.
So they won't load up with oil and metal shavings from the knife?
Oh, they will in time, yeah, but that's what I'm saying. You can clean them and dress them.
So that's where the dressing comes in.
It cleans it, yeah, it cleans it off, and you'd be amazed if you took a really dirty bench stone and you dress it on a steel plate and just plain old soft cold rolled steel plate. Even a cast iron plate is good if you can get them. Don't use aluminum or anything but a steel plate to do this, because what you do is you work more of the material, the honing plate material into the stone. So if you get a good steel plate, you use the grinding wheel like I told you, you know, just abrade it, put a lot of mineral oil on there, and just rub your stone around, and you'll be amazed at how it cleans it up. Where you might have steel embedded in there, it'll just take it right out of there. And if it's really nasty, dirty, just clean the plate off, wipe it off, and redo it again. Because you can salvage your old stones and keep them dressed nice and flat without grooves in them. And if it works for you, go.
You know, that rouge, I've got some of that white stuff, it's kind of hard, it doesn't stick very well to the paper, where this old-fashioned rouge is kind of a burn to put it on, but then it comes off real easy too, but sometimes.
Yeah, this buffing compound sticks, they come in different grades. There's a red one, a white one, and I think a blue one are the common grades. And I don't remember which is which. The white, I think, is the finest. That's what I've always used, and it works, so I stuck with it. So anybody got any questions, or? I got a couple of blades here, if anybody wants them. We've been over this before. Once in a while, you're going to get some that are going to warp on you when you do the heat treating. It doesn't mean you have to necessarily throw it away. You end up with a shorter knife blade. So if anybody wants that one's got some warpage in it. Here's another one.
So you
You have that one.
So you just shorten it, you can't, there's no way.
Yeah, you just.
No way to peen it and straighten it?
No, if you do that, it'll crack.
Crack it.
Yeah. You just end up with a shorter knife
Right.
blade, that's all. And myself, for the kind of work that I do, my preference is short knife blades. So for me, they work good. I mean, I got some that are longer, but I guess I find myself using the short ones a lot. You can get even though this one's warped, let's pass it around so you can get an idea of what I'm talking about. You can still get a 1-inch blade on it.
You heat it, you just stick it in water and.
I oil quench them in mineral oil.
Mineral oil?
Yeah. What it is, it's an industrial bandsaw blade. It's a 3/4, starts out a 3/4 inch blade. It's a big blade. It must be like 80 inches at least, 100 and some inches. I don't know. But that's the blade stock that we went through. Prior
Use
to
a hacksaw blade?
hacksaw blades, my experience with them has been some are good and some are not so good because they're hard to heat treat for whatever reason. These work out good.
It's probably too thin too, a hacksaw blade, huh?
Well, I've got one hacksaw blade knife that I use. Been using it for quite a few years.
So you're talking about a power hacksaw, one of the great big
Oh,
ones.
no, are you talking power hacksaw, regular hacksaw blade? Yeah. The one I'm talking about is a regular hacksaw blade. I've had it for a long time. And it doesn't hold an edge, and it gets sharpened so frequently it looks like this. But I just use it, I don't use it really as a carving knife. I use it like, where you might want to use an X-Acto blade knife, or if I'm making wire bird feet and I want to trim off epoxy and stuff. I wouldn't use my good carving knives on the wire. No, I've not had good success. You're asking, can you have it? You may absolutely have it. See, he's picked up on it. That blade is cockeyed.
Yeah.
It's bent. But, who knows the difference? I've never noticed
Yeah.
that it was.
Well, I'm just thinking if I make one out of this,
Yeah, you can
I'm
make
gonna
it.
make it so the curve is,
Yeah.
then when I cut it off, then it's.
Get these
This is a saber saw blade.
saber saw.
And the only reason, it started out straight originally, the only reason it's bent is I removed it from the original handle, and when I was knocking the pins out, I ended up bending
How
the
far
blade.
over can you bend those? Can you bend them in a curve? You see that knife Tommy had here?
I mean, before you, and meal.
You seen Tommy's knife, the one that you got a curve
Right.
in?
Maybe
I don't
before you
know.
harden it.
I've not tried to make any curved blades, so.
Probably soften it.
Yeah, you'd have to start, probably do the rough out soft and then harden it.
Bob, is that a standard width for your strop? So in other words, a 7-inch fillet knife you'd use, or would you want something?
Oh, no,
wider? That's what I thought. Okay, all right.
I use it on